Colepaugh in it.
There's a Morris, last name is Morris, who's a teacher, vice principal, maybe principal at the end of James and at the end of his career as a teacher at James and Hill in RIS.
Yeah, so it was a night at Big George Hayes's, and so that's a place in Renous, Big George Hayes, mentioned, kind of going full circle, this poem about Winter on Renous, the sons of Morgan Hayes, Eddie, George, and Mike. So whoever C.H. Morris was, I don't know, but he used to be in Renous. So whether he was just an itinerant worker that worked for Hayes's, because Hayes's did work in the woods there. They had no mercy on a man but worked him day and night. The sons of Morgan Hayes, Eddie, George, and Mike. So he might have been just a worker, and a lot of these workers wrote poetry. Sandy Grattan and Michael Whalen, Joe Smith, Frank O'Hara, all these people, they wrote a lot of.
It's a funny aspect of someone or a line of work back then, which most of the line of work would be physical, but also they had this intellectual, poetic side, and they felt free enough and expressed it and recorded it and passed it down to us.
And again, Louise Manning Red Wilson's book was just what a godsend that they did that. Thank you, Laura Beaverbrook, for getting that going.
One of a kind. I got a copy of it at the house.
I've had many copies. There's a copy right here somewhere. Maybe it's upstairs now, but yeah, no, it was wonderful. So that's what originally we were approached. We formed this little group, and a couple of good friends of mine, Greg Donovan and Junior Hubbard.
I know Greg.
Yeah. And so we decided that we'd do a play with the Dungarvan Hooper.
And what year would that have been?
I think it's in 06.
2006.
I think it was 2006 we did the Dungarvan Hooper.
Who wrote it? Or who?
The play?
Yes.
I did. But we based it on Michael Whelan's poem. Now there's a lot of different stories about the Dungarvan Hooper. Some people say that it was named after a lake. Some people say that the fellow's name was Dungarvan. The Boys Town Woodsman's Museum has a different version. And when I spoke to Bernice up there, Bernice Place, I asked her, I said, where did you get this? Because they had it on this large piece of paper, double column, fine print type of thing. And I said, where did you get this? I've never heard this story. She said, I don't know where it came from. But it was more about that Dungarvan Hooper, according to that story, is more like a paranoid schizophrenic who's very canny, but socially can't handle anything. I had a friend who was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, and it seemed to be that maybe this is what this guy was. And that sounds a lot more believable about what this Dungarvan Hooper would have been, rather than the ghost of a murdered cook. I don't know. But I've talked to old people, none of them are left now, but I remember Wilson Sturgeon telling me that when I was a boy, I heard the Hooper. I heard him yelling. I heard him hooping up there. So anyway, that got us going. We started with the Dungarvan Hooper, and after that, we did a play about Yvonne Durrell. It was going to be the 50th year anniversary of his fight with Archie Moore. So that went over well. We did that a couple of times. We did it in Blackpool. We also did it at the Kin Centre, Newcastle. Susan Butler's been right along and encouraging us ever since. So that's where we got a hold of Sean McCarthy. He played the boss. It was in the Dungarvan Hooper and Tom Daly and a lot of people.
Yeah, him and
Tom and Sean are still going at it.
They're doing historical things locally still together, and they have a little
Yeah.
theatre group going on there at the time now.
And then we did a play on Michael Whalen. We did one on Joe Smith. That was a great one. That was wonderful. The Michael Whalen one was really good too. And we just did all kinds of shows over the years, like the 150th anniversary for the church. And so we got commissioned. Frances Connell and some of her cronies contacted us if we would do one about John Connell from Bernie Colepaugh. So we wrote a play called John Connell, Come Back and Get Your Moose. And somebody said when I was at this meeting with these people, they said, well, how are you going to do that, Colepaugh? How are you going to write that play? And I said, oh, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to think about it. And somebody spoke up and said, well, maybe you should write it from a Newfoundlander's point of view. So that sometimes is all it takes to, get an idea going. So that's the way I wrote it.
We brought 2 moose from here who went over to
4.
Newfoundland.
They started out with 7. 3 of them died. And
Oh,
4 of them were let out. 2 males, and 2 bulls, and 2 cows were let out in Howley, Newfoundland. And now they claim there's like 150,000 of them over there. So the name of the play was John Connell, Come Back and Get Your Moose. We've had nothing but trouble since it got loose. So
it could be their provincial animal. Like,
well,
it's a big...
the cod is pretty well gone. The codfish. Right?
Yeah,
So.
but the rural people. I mean, there was a group, buddy. What's his name? And the other fellas.
Yes. Yeah.
Guts to get my moose by
4-month season. The chances are you're going to get it. Moose, best meat in the world.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
It really is. It really is awesome.
You get a 3 or 4 year old moose. Holy moly!
I know.
Now I've never tasted anything better than it in my life.
Well, my dad was a great cook. That's all he ever did all his life. And I've inherited his cast iron pots and pans. And I have this one great big Dutch oven. Pretty damn heavy thing. And I could have sold it 100 times, but no way.
Cast iron, I suppose.
Yeah, oh, definitely heavy. But and it's going to my daughter. She likes to cook, and one of my daughters. And to some of the meals I've made in that thing, it doesn't quite compare to Dad's all the time, but I'm getting there. It's I can cook a little bit.
So these plays that you put on were quite well received in the area.
Well, we did the Dungarvan Hoover 19 times over the years. So, yeah.
That's a friggin' lot.
And the last ones that we did, just for something else to do, because we, like I said, we were doing Joe Smith and Michael Whalen and John Connell and Beaverbrook and all these different ones.
Were these recorded?
Yes, I don't have all of them myself, and that's something I've got to do is try to get. I believe most of them are, and but the last 2 we did was having all women play the parts of all the men. It's the most fun I had in a long time. So, like all men, it was all men in the lumber camps, right?
Yes.
So it's all women playing the parts. So they got the fake mustaches and beards.
And how do you encourage women to do this?
Because it was so much fun. I called them up, and we had a few people in that, General LeBlanc, Christina Jokes. I'm trying to think if there's somebody else new, Lynn Manderson. They had not been in our place before, and I called them up and
You
told
just
them
knew
about
these
it.
people and just...
Or somebody would tell me about them. Carol Tozer and her daughter Christina. They were the boss, so it was. So the boss, Carol Tozer, ends up killing Brian, the cook, her daughter. So it was just a hoot. We had a great time with it. Dorinda Glover, Rose Corney, Karen Monroe. It was the first time in ours. I hate to miss anybody out, but we had a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun.
The audience can feel that it's almost contagious. They can feel the humor on the stage. The audience feels that. And they have a great time because the people on the stage are having a great time.
Exactly. And it was. And they added the stinkers, but it was good though what they did. They didn't tell me they were going to do this stuff. So when it was at night and the wind is howling and they can hear all these whoops and screams and yells and whatnot, they all started shaking like this. And then someone else would touch one of them. So the whole crowd of the women, they're all up in the stage and they're just vibrating. It was quite funny. It was a lot of fun.
And, it's one thing to tell history or explain history from a book. It only goes so far in the brain. But when you add a theatrical component to it, it really sticks with people. They don't forget it, Yeah, I remember that play. Yeah.
So part of the reason that one of the problems with these plays was to have a place to store our props, our sets, our clothes, our recording equipment, everything. So we needed a place to put this. stuff. We needed a place of our own, I felt. We called ourselves the Heritage Players, and like I say, Sean and Greg and Junior, but I was the main force, and we went through the government, and we ended up getting the old Carter's Country Store in Renous and turned it into the Membership Folklore Park. And you've driven by there, you know
Yes.
the building.
Oh,
So you
yes,
see the
definitely.
big picture of the tree?
Yes.
We did that. So, you know, and over the years, we got government grants, thanks, very much, and we did it. It took a long time. I think we were 6 years getting it.
It's a it's a lovely laid out stage there now.
Well, that was
Lots of room.
and we did all that ourselves. We did a lot. I mean, we had certain contractors to do certain things.
Yeah.
Like the new roof we put on it. There was a flat deck that the Carters had used there. They built it for a deck for themselves, but that wasn't really working very well. So we had that torn off and roof put on. And Terry Bell did some of the work, and Dick Tucker helped out. There was a bunch of people helped out doing a lot of things.
So improvements over the years
Colepaugh,
gradually.
Yeah, so well,
Because-
just to buy the place was amazing, and then I had because I'd been an antique dealer for quite a while. We couldn't do a whole lot right at first because it was a store. There was coolers in there. There was shelving. The floor was in horrible shape, and just from years and years of wear. So to get all that stuff taken out of there and to start something up to make money, I brought all my antiques in and sold antiques in order to make money for the place, and started a small museum. Started gathering up different artifacts locally and whatnot. One of the sad parts is that I had nowhere to put all this stuff, and some of those things have gone. But
Are you still an antique collector?
no, and I'm not involved with the Heritage Players anymore either.
No.
When I turned 65, I retired, and I started having grandkids. My daughter started having kids, so I hang out with my grandkids a lot, as much as I can. I've got one in there
Yeah.
now watching TV while we're talking, and they're great kids. I love them dearly, and they fill up a lot of my time and give me a lot of joy. So it's no, so I don't. I mean, there's times when I miss the antiques, I miss the museum, and I miss the Heritage Players, but.
But you can't replace family.
Well,
Can't-
this is it,
Can't,
and
can't do it.
I'm getting to that age. I'm going to be 70 in a couple of days, so now I spend my time with grandkids and my garden and out four-wheeling and
I
swimming in the river.
remember times when I was his age, which is 9, being with my grandparents on both sides of the family, and for some reason I never lost it, and I still see it as special times, valuable times that are irreplaceable and incomparable. That's the best way I could put it.
Oh, and we just, my wife and I, we just feel so lucky that our daughters are here and that our grandkids are here. So, him and his two brothers, they're in Newcastle. And my other daughter that has a daughter, she's just in Salisbury. So
Yeah.
I have 4 grandkids from 2 of my daughters, and my other daughter didn't have any children, Daphne. Daphne
Yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
her own kids. And no, I just feel really, really lucky that they're in the area and that I get to see them as much as I do. I'd like to see my granddaughter a little bit more, but she's in Salisbury, but I'll be seeing her on my birthday, so that'll be nice.
But even Daphne, I mean, she come up a month, 2 months ago, whatever it was, to work on your garden.
Yeah,
To,
exactly. Oh yeah, she's just
And-
in Chatham, so no, it's great that they're around.
for like family time, and my 2 daughters are
Picking blueberries.
grown up and moved away, and I don't see them enough.
This is it, and I know so many people now. My neighbors next door, they've got a son in Toronto, a daughter in Vancouver, and a daughter in Louisiana. So they don't see them very much. So I
It's a special privilege, and that's the best word.
That's exactly the way I look at it. You know, I'm so pleased that my kids wanted to stay here and that I have as much contact with them as I do.
You
It's
know,
great. I think it's great.
in 50 years from now, when when your grandkids watch this video, if you share it with them, they're gonna know that Granddad valued us and truly loved us.
Oh, but I don't think they suspect otherwise. I mean,
Yeah,
Bronson and Otto and Atlas, the three boys, and then Katie Cool Lady, my granddaughter. She's in Salisbury, so no, they know that Joanne and I love them a lot. They know that, and no, they wouldn't come up as much if they didn't. You know,
True.
I try to have the boys up once a week if I can, and we go four-wheeling, swimming in the river, picking berries, and I'm building a little. I've got a ninja line and a swing and a stairway to heaven out in the woods, and I'm in the process of trying to build some monkey bars and a couple more swings and a zip line. So
You're lucky enough to have the sharpness of mind and the physical health to be able to do these things. Because in 20 years, it may not be there for you or me or anybody else. And so we think time is endless, but time is a very finite window that we have in life.
I mean, I've got 50 acres here. I mean, some people, yes, I own the land. My wife and I, we own the land, but I consider myself more of a steward of the property. You know what I mean? Because my tenure over this land isn't going to be that long, and I'm hoping that my kids and my grandkids will take it over. And like the property hasn't been cut since 1970, so there's some big trees on it, and I've done some spacing and a little bit of thinning and cutting here, and there's some really nice spots here and nice open, nice trees, big trees.
So you like to see it as the Copaugh homestead.
Exactly, and the thing is that I've never had any money, and I doubt that I will. I'm not going to win the lottery because I don't buy tickets, so this is going to be my legacy as much as
But
that's what I want anyway, that they'll go to them.
God came to you right now and said you can either lose what you have here, including the grandchildren, or you can have $1 million. Which would you choose?
What would I do with $1 million? I mean, sure, get a nicer vehicle
So
or
what?
leave it to the kids or something, but I mean, I'm just on my pension and I'm doing just fine, thank you very much. I don't need a bunch of money, I never really
You know what your
cared
choice
for
would
money.
be.
Oh, without a doubt. $1 million would be nice, mind you. I like that there's a lot of things I like to do and help out my kids and my grandkids and education
But
and all
in
that
the
stuff,
end,
but I'm not going to have it, so my legacy will have to be memories and this property, I hope.
Yeah,
I hope so.
yeah. It's a nice way of living. At 65 or 70 and beyond. It's a nice way to live the rest of your life, basically, because other people don't have that opportunity to be with their family as much as you do, or to have a piece of land or any of that stuff.
That's right.
Like home ownership right now has become the upper middle class status symbol because it's so damn expensive.
Who can afford it?
So damn expensive.
That's right. I mean, and I was just telling you how much it cost me to buy this house, buy the property, and do all that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. $35,000 to have a house and property, the basement, and all that. No, that's not going to happen.
You're lucky
again.
if that's a down payment and your lawyer fees. Depending on a large city.
Exactly. Well, even in Miramichi, ever since COVID, with so many people moving here, and this is I was just telling a friend, I said about how many people are. One time, this was a very close knit community,
Yes,
and most of the people were related. I mean, not everybody,
You go
but
back
I mean,
far enough, yes.
but everybody had relations here.
Yeah.
But now we have people just within 20 miles of here from Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
from South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
from Romania, from Ghana, from Tanzania, from the UK, Scotland, England, and Ireland, and I don't know about Wales, but people, and an awful lot of Ontarians.
Well,
An awful lot.
Ontarians are they're housing is even worse than
Down here,
ours.
yes.
So, you know, they can sell what they have up there and come back and have a little money to do what they want to do. But they have the opportunity to have space, which is not an option in most of southern Ontario, unless you're a gazillionaire. It's
Well,
not
this
an
is what's
option.
happening. People in Ontario, and I've heard this from a number of them. The people that bought my sister's place, for instance, they sold their place and just moved down here and bought this place, and lots of money left over.
Yeah,
I met a crowd up by the Priceville Bridge,
yeah,
and he said, "Well, my wife and I and another couple, their friends, they were going to move down here and live off the. I mean, and they're not near our age or my age, and he said they were looking for a place around this area and saw the I think it's called the Storytown Cottages.
okay, yeah.
Oh, well, we can buy that and have a business. And they did. And they're just living high in the hog. They just, they're taking kayakers out to the river and having a great time, and the money they made after selling their homes in Ontario.
When I grew up in Nelson, right across from the Tickle, right across from Beaubears Island, right in the water, and all along that road, houses prices were just normal in the 70s. But now, going forward 50 years, they probably not doubled, they probably went 5 times the value that we thought they were worth in the 70s.
Well, read Herb Curtis' book, The Americans Are Coming.
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah. So I don't know where it's going to end, but it's not good for a lot of the local people that have a modest income. And like my daughter was looking at buying in Fredericton, and she looked at her property, and we went up at say 3 p.m. on a Sunday, and by the time she contacted the realtor, there was 3 offers in above the asking price.
Yep.
Holy!
No, and it's not going to go back. It's not going to go back to the way it was. Like what my wife and I did here, you're not going to see opportunities like that again.
No, I don't. I think you're absolutely right. And
Any piece of riverfront, and it's getting built up everywhere.
yeah,
All along the
Yeah.
river, everywhere.
yeah, that's true. There's houses along the road where I grew up that didn't exist, and
That's right.
you know, people are coming from away and realizing, holy cripes, I have a chance to even buy property. Where they came from, there's not even an option unless you're a gazillionaire. So
Yeah.
it is driving up the price in the real estate, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. Where it's going to end, I don't know. But it's not good for young people. Like, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have the money for a down payment, do you want to tie into a $400,000 mortgage? That's a lot of money every month to pay that mortgage.
That's right.
Anyway, anything else you want to add?
I don't know.
What?
No, I think I'm good. I think I'm pretty good.
So now you're turning 70 in a few days, and I suppose you had some difficult times along the way, but it turned out pretty well for you.
Well, this is that somebody said, well, if you could change anything, would you? And I said, well, if I changed something that would change where I am now, then no. If I made mistakes, of course. If I done things wrong, if I had bad luck, whatever, of course.
Mhm.
But to change anything that would change where I am now, no. Would I change anything for these boys and my granddaughter? No. No, wouldn't give them up.
It's a nice thing to have in your life and be appreciative of it even existing in your life.
I asked a friend of mine one time years ago. I said, "Are you happy?" He said, "I'm content." And I think not everybody is, right? So I certainly am content with the land and my family and
Having family close by is,
a real bonus.
I don't think you can put a price on that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Because when we grew up, most of our family was in the area and had been that way since they come over from Scotland or Ireland
Sure.
or wherever.
Yeah.
and then it just changed in the 80s. People had to go away, and in the 70s too, it changed then, and so maybe it's coming back to that. If you're lucky enough, if you're fortunate enough, if you're blessed enough, such as you, to have that situation. But it's very, I wouldn't say lucky. I don't think it's luck. It's a very privileged place to be in life.
Yeah. I agree.